Hi, this is Ryan Saddam, the Chief Experience Officer at Client Savvy. Welcome to another installment of the CXps Knowledge Sharing Module series. This week we have Danny McPhaul, a Client Success Manager at Transloc. And we're going to have a great interview with Danny where we really understand and dissect what client success management is and how that transformation from a support and service organization to a success organization has really helped drive a new and improved client experience in their organization. Before I bring Danny into the conversation, I do want to just cover a little bit of the housekeeping. As always, we will have a mural activity that is live during the week that this is being published. So if you're watching this during the launch week and you're a member of our great community, check out clientexperience.org to get all the details to log into the mural and take part in some of the community activities that we have designed for you there. And if you have any questions for Danny, he's going to be joining us again this coming Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern time so that he can answer your questions and be available to share more of his wisdom with you. Before we get started, I do want to pause for a moment and say a special thank you to all of our sponsors. We could not do this without you, and thank you for your continued support. All right, Danny, thank you so very much for joining us. I appreciate you being here. So you're a CSM, a Client Success Manager at Transloc. Tell me a little bit more about you, Transloc, and your role there.
Yes, and thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it. So my role as a client success manager at Transloc. So Transloc, for those of you who may not have heard of it, essentially we work in the transit sector. So in the municipalities and also with the universities, they all have buses to transport people around. So what we do is we put tracking devices on there, GPS trackers, if you will, to make sure that we know the buses are at all time. What we do on the technical aspect of it is we also make an app so that the kids or the citizens, whoever wants to know where the bus is, they can look on the app and say, hey, the vehicle's here. It's going to be here in approximately 10 minutes. They know exactly where it is, how many passengers are on the bus, if it's at full, if it's at capacity, whatever the case may be. We also dibble and dabble in something that's called on demand, which is essentially think Lyft and Uber, but in a campus space. Most universities use that as their safe ride. So instead of depending on the kids getting back from where they're going at, more than likely bars, if they want to get home safely, the school actually provides that for them. So it's a van that goes around and it picks up the students to make sure that they get home safely. It's paid for through the school, so they don't actually have to pay for it. It's operated by the school. They normally have student drivers. It's a way to make sure that the students get home safely, and it operates, again, the same way you would on an app, much the same as you would do with an Uber or a Lyft. So they just call it, they see when it's coming, they get there, and it's a full accountability. So that's essentially what we do. My role at Transloc is essentially I'm the client success manager. I work mostly in the university space. So most of my clients are the universities that deal with the student transportation. What I end up doing, I essentially call myself, I'm the quarterback of the team. There's a lot of information coming in from the customers as far as things they're happy with, things that they're not happy with, and just different features and things that they want to have taken care of. My job is to take that information in, let them know that I'm going to take care of it, and then take it to our product team, take it to the marketing team, sales team, what have you, and to make sure that the customer's needs are met. And that's kind of the long and short of it.
Thanks, Danny. And I really want to lean in a little bit on a specific part of your title, the Client Success Manager, instead of client service or client support. Why is the word success in your title instead of service or support?
The reason why the word success is in the title is because I'm indeed there to make my client successful. I'm not there just so that they can continue on having a service, because truth be told, they'll have a service with or without me. They have a contract with the company. My job is that as long as they're with us, I provide the information that they need and the opportunities that they need in order to make sure that their business grows and that they are indeed successful. So that's why it's more of a success base versus a client service base.
And what are some of the differences between supporting a client and really helping them succeed?
I would honestly say that the main difference would be getting to know your client and exactly how they operate. In a normal, typical account management role, you're more focused on customer retention. You're more focused on let's make sure we re-sign them to a different contract. With the customer success or client success manager role, you're focused on how they operate. You know your business inside and out. I understand what Transloc is capable of. I know the different pieces of technology that are coming down the pipe. And so my job is to knowing what this particular university does and how they service their students with the transit agency. What can we do that's going to actually help them out? Knowing that ahead of time, making sure that I set the customer up to be in the best successful space in order to utilize those so that their transit service can be the best, most safe possible option for their students.
Seems like a really interesting way to externalize what you focus on from defining what winning looks like. It's not about what we're doing. It's about, we don't win until our client wins.
Absolutely. I would double down on that. I would piggyback on that to say is that it's making our client win is the way that we win. So even in I explain it to our sales team and marketing and so on and so forth. The relationship with the client is what's going to drive business more so than cold calls, more so than, hey, we got this great deal for you. If they trust us, if the relationship and the rapport is there, then they're going to want to have extra activities and extra services with us. They're going to want to listen to what it is that we have to say, because they're not looking at us as someone who's trying to sell them something. They're looking at us as, oh, I'm in a relationship with this person, this organization, and they're trying to help me win because they win as well. So basically letting them know that their success is our number one goal, and it just opens up the window to everything else.
Great. So the members of the CXPS community are all professional services providers. They've all built their firms and built their businesses by taking great care of clients, by building long-term relationships. That's the core of what we do. So you joined Transloc at a point when they were transitioning from an account management service model with great service to a success model. Talk to me a little bit about that transformation, because I think a lot of people might think they're already in a success model and they're not there. So what started the change?
So what started the change, and again, we were providing great service to the customers. Again, I joined as the transition happened, so I wasn't aware exactly of what the policies were on their account management structure. But what I do know, or what I did find out after I joined in a customer success management role, is the kind of, I guess the kind of service, the kind of experience that they were getting beforehand left some things to be desired, as far as I would see it. There were a lot of, I would say, gaps that unless you're looking outside of the box, unless you're really thinking about the relationship as a whole, you wouldn't actually see as gaps. So the clients had expressed that they wanted essentially to have more attention be paid to them. There were boxes being checked and things being taken care of technically, but when it came down to just fully servicing the client, those things weren't necessarily being met. So our director was hired on, and he dealt more so in a client success management. He managed a lot of those guys. And so when he came in, he brought the idea to Transloc, told them the benefits of it, and then they enacted that. So when I stepped in, it was kind of the ball had started to roll on that, but I was the second client success manager hired. And so I took over from the account manager, and just listening to the things that were missing, was able to build a relationship based on what I can offer as opposed to what were being offered beforehand.
So you were thrown right into this transformation, and other organizations that are looking at doing a success transformation themselves. What things should they watch out for? What was difficult in your transformation?
The difficult thing in a transformation, I would say, would be to kind of explain what the difference is. Again, as to your point, they think, well, I already have an account manager. What's the difference between this and a client success manager? And so the way that I kind of described it is more of a hands-on approach. It's not just your quarterly meeting and you're done. It's not just, hey, I'm just checking in to see if you're okay. No, we're going to have these calls. I'm going to reach out to you if I see something that happens on Twitter, in the news with your university. If something happened on campus that I see actually affected your transit, I'm going to reach out to see if there's anything that we could do to help you with that. If I see something potentially, it is all aspects of the account. It is taking care of a problem before it's actually a problem. And with that, keeping me from having to check in or you're calling us because something's blown up and something's not right. My goal is to keep everything okay. And then whenever something does happen, make it as smooth a transition as possible, but by showcasing that I actually really do care. That it's not just a job that, me personally, my approach is I build, I say strong professional relationships. It's you have your rapport with your clients, and then there's some clients, people are different. So there's some people that you relate to. There's some people that some of my clients, their favorite shows Game of Thrones. So we have an extra thing to talk about because I love Game of Thrones too. So it's building a personal connection along with the business relationship. It is what makes the client success management role, I think, a more in-depth and a more effective role than just an account management.
Right. Did you develop any case studies as part of the transition, or what were some of the early successes that got people who were internally maybe a little reluctant or uncertain of the transformation? What are some of the early wins that got people saying, oh man, this was a smart thing to do?
I'd say some of the early wins were a particular client of mine that was on their way out the door. They had expressed that due to essentially just the lack of focus on them, they were ready to be done with Transloc. And my first client trip was to this particular client. And so going to speak to them and essentially just being honest with them, letting them know, yes, listen, I understand. There are things that have taken place. The ball has been dropped. That happened before me, but give me an opportunity, give me a month, 2 months to at least show you what the difference is. I can show you the difference in a client success manager versus an account manager more than I can tell you, because words at that point, if the relationship is on rocky terms, if the rapport isn't there, if the faith has kind of been lost, you can tell them things all day long, but they're not going to believe you until they see it. So with me showcasing the relationship, going up there, like it was Wyoming. So traveling all the way to Wyoming in February and -10 degrees, the coldest I have ever been in my entire life.
The audience may not know that you're a North Carolina boy, so that was definitely a cold day for Danny.
Yes, North Carolina, born and raised. I didn't know temperatures got down to negatives, and so I found out the hard way. And the wind, so them knowing that it was me and my director at the time, and making that personal trip in just the coldest of cold, and staying there, and we actually we rode around on their Safe Ride vehicle. We went to their operations. We didn't just hear from the transit managers, we heard from the actual operators that operate the service each night. We were there when they took calls from the students that came in. We sat on the bus and rode around, and as they picked up the college kids from the bars to take them home. So it was a super in-depth a showing of we're here and we're listening to you. And then once we gathered all that information, then taking that back, what I was able to do is there was a situation where for some reason at the end of the night, they were set up that our app is an on-demand app that you use via the smartphone. And you just call a ride, it picks them up, you're fine. For some reason, and it's because they were in a small town in Wyoming, the kids were all in the bars downtown, and they would actually walk to the transit office and actually wait to get into the vans there, which is not how the system was designed at all. And so instead of being able to use our system, they would shut it down at a certain point in time, 2 a.m., and then they would write on Post-it notes, all right, you're going to this one. Everyone's that's in this green section here, you're going to go there, and everyone's in blue here. And it's pen and paper in 2019. That's ridiculous. We literally make technology. So we witnessed that, and then my number one takeaway was that I'm going to make sure that you guys never have to do this again because it's ridiculous. And so I went back and I worked with our product team specifically to fix that one thing. We were able to take care of it just by putting out some updates, feature requests, things of that nature. And within, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks, had them so that they can just extend the service. And we created it was something that we were working on initially, but it basically called walk up lock in, which is instead of the person having to request a ride via their smartphone, each of the drivers have a tablet on board that kind of shows them the direction where they're going to drop the kids off. We added a function where that person could just add the person that walked up. So if the student walked up, they can say, okay, you're coming on this vehicle. So essentially they do it all through the tablet. It's looked at by the operations team and no one has to do any pen or paper. That helped them tremendously. And at that point in time, they were like, we thank you for this. You know, they trusted me at that point. And so they were no longer on we're going to be done with Transloc. We see that Transloc's listening. Not only are they listening, they've provided a huge service. They have taken care of one of our most painful points in the night and made things a lot easier. So that, to me, I believe actions are a way stronger thing than words. I told them I would get it done. I got it done. And so from now, anytime, you know, they ask for something and I say, yeah, I can totally help you out with that, they believe me. So getting them, and they actually went to re-sign a contract. They were up for renewal, I think 2 months after that, which is why I gave them the 2-month window. And so they actually told us a month beforehand, they said, yeah, go ahead and sign us up for 5 more years. Like we're in. And so dollar signs make company heads very happy. And so once they saw that I took a customer that was ready to leave and it said nothing, not great things about us, and turned around into absolutely go ahead and renew us now. We love you guys. In that short of a time, it definitely greased the wheels as far as the client success management role.
So what parts of this story are just Danny being awesome? And I know you are. And what part of the story is repeatable process that's a part of an effective client success organization? Because we don't always have that rock star that we can deploy for the save. So what part of this was a standard operating procedure for your client success protocol?
I would say the part of that would be essentially the identifying the situation, like identifying and they told us several things throughout that entire time of things that were not great, but identifying the biggest thing that we could fix, which was they're using pen and paper. That's ridiculous. And then taking that back to our team. So identifying the problem, taking that back, and then working with our product team. Like that's not a rockstar Danny kind of stuff. It is, hey guys, this is the problem. We need to get this fixed. What can we do? If we can't do it all, what are smaller steps that we can get done in the meantime? So there's a lot of, I call it razzle dazzle. There's a lot of razzle dazzle that you put on that, but ultimately it all remains the same. The repeatable process is see your customer, listen to your customer, understand your customer, and then address those issues the first time. Make sure that they don't have to tell you the same thing twice. If they brought that up to me later on, that means clearly I wasn't listening. I can't stress just how it's the little things, especially if clients haven't felt listened to and you just listen to them. A lot of, I'd say 50 to 60% of the turnaround was just simply because I listened. And a lot of times they didn't have nice things to say, but they wanted to express themselves. They wanted to vent, so to speak, and you listen to it and you take it, but you act on it. And so however you act on it, if you act on it in a very charismatic way, or if you act on it in a very matter-of-fact way, as long as you take that, you let them know that they're heard, and then you act on it, those are the keys to success. So that would be the process.
Great. So we've had a lot of organizations who are either in the midst of a merger or acquisition, or they're looking at the opportunities that the current situation has provided as a great time to acquire somebody, or maybe they need to be acquired because that's an exit strategy for them. You're going through an acquisition merger right now, at least during this recording.
Mm-hmm.
How are you integrating this other organization? Because they don't have a client success organization. They're on the account management model. How are you integrating them and getting them up to speed with these processes?
So it's been a bit of a bumpy ride, but it's because anything that's a new process is going to be a difficult one. So we are bringing them in, and they're from 2 different companies. So we're going through a 3-company merger, which is even more fun. But through that, dealing with how those 2 companies dealt with things differently, their clients are set up differently, and so it's basically digging in and, okay, these are the keys across the board, and no matter who your client is, this will work for you. So it's been a lot of showcasing the success. I mean, I've shown the stories. Fortunately, I can show them all the good stuff of this is where we were trending before, and then this is what happened after the CSM role came into play. This is what we did. Here are my successes, and so on and so forth. I've had a lot of them, sit in on the meetings with me. I've shown them what my meeting structure is, what my cadence is with the client. So some, they're fine. You don't have to reach out to them all the time. Some would rather not talk to you and would just want an email, but it's knowing those clients. And then there's some that want to meet with you every single week to talk about every single thing that's going on. So it's a matter of knowing that. So what I stressed to them, the first question that I asked them was, how much do you know about your client? And I was surprised that it was not as much as you would think. So because in that role, they weren't required to know much. It's, I know how many, I know how many buses they have. I know, what they're paying us per year. I know when their contract's up. Like, okay, but what do you know about the client? Like, why do they do what they do? Well, because they need to get kids classes. Yeah, I know that, but why do they do? So it's inspiring them to ask more questions whenever you deal with your client. It's letting them kind of ramble on a little bit, reeling them in where it's possible, because when they talk about the different things, you can pull a lot of stuff. They tell you things without actually telling you things. I've had clients be surprised that I even knew, like, how did you know, so-and-so? And like, sometimes I say, oh, I just felt it in the air. Or sometimes I'm like, well, when you mentioned A, B, or C, it depends on how razzle dazzle I want to be at the moment. But it all goes back to listening to the client and acting on that. You can be working on something that they have identified as a problem, but haven't actually told you it's a problem, and get it taken care of before it actually comes to a head. And then just kind of throw that out there, and it builds the relationship. It helps the client, and it just makes sales going forward easier. So I've been giving them those processes, and then I've let them see how I do things. Because to your point, I do things a little bit differently than most people, but I have other CSMs and we have similar successes, even though they operate differently, because we both do the same key things. So it's basically having them sit with us. It's convincing them that this role is better. And it is showcasing that by asking them the simple question of, what do you know about your client? Cool, let me tell you what I know about my client. And then just showing that, and then going, oh, well, what about this? Yes, I have X amount of clients and I can tell you this about them. And if I can't do it off the top of my head, I have a Google sheet or something that I can go to get that information, because it's pertinent, because that's how you're successful. That's how you make them successful. And without that, you're just flying blind. So it's been a lot of that. And I've been fortunate to be at the kind of the forefront of it, because I've had a lot of successes with clients that were in bad places that are brought to good places. And so they've let me lead a lot of the talks and kind of give a lot of the explanations and the directions as far as to turning an account management role into a client success manager role.
So you've talked about how this is more beneficial for the client. Certainly, when you take a client who's 2 months away from walking out the door to signing a 5-year extension, that's working for the client.
Mhm.
You've been in service support roles before, you've been in account manager roles before, and now
Mhm.
you're in a client success management role. How is this better for Danny?
I'll be honest with you, it's better for me because in this role, I feel like I get to be more of Danny. If we're talking on a personal level, when I've been in, and I've been in other roles that are account manager, and it's very much kind of by the book, and this is what we need, and don't worry about asking about that, or we don't need that, we just need this. And it's been very hard to build the relationships, because just in general, I'm a personable kind of person. I like to talk to people and kind of get to know them. And so having to dial that back in certain roles was felt very constricting. So with this, I've been able to kind of just blossom and be more of myself, and use those personality traits to my advantage, to see where they fit in, to get the information to make it there. So I feel I've been more successful in this role, and I've been able to do a lot more. I mean, just in general of the company success that I've been able to bring in, just with the clients, and even dollar wise. I mean, just the turn of that, because there's a lot of money there, and it's great, because I hate doing the whole salesman thing. I'm not a salesman. I used to sell things before, and it's just not my cup of tea. So I enjoy being able to help someone out without like the button at the end of like the gotcha moment of, now sign up for this, and what I found is, through this, I can do that. And they want to sign up for this at the end of it. I don't have to offer anything. I tell them about this thing. This is going to help you out. This is an actual need that we will fulfill with this. And I just say, hey, sales, sign this. And they love me because they get bonus checks. So it lends itself to it. I don't feel that I'm doing I don't feel slimy because I'm trying to get a sale. It helps. I feel better when I actually help the customer and get things taken care of. If I can speak to at least to the current situation as of this recording with COVID being what COVID is, it has hit the universities very hard. They're not, and certainly school's been out for a good while now, and kids haven't been on campus. They're unsure if they're going to be going back. So in this particular environment and time, the whole thing is like just retention, hold on to clients. We're not trying to sell them anything. We're trying to help them out as much as possible, but don't try and sell anything. Our sales department has no idea what to do. But I've been able to identify a need because of the fact that our clients need to do contact tracing for their students. They're going to need to know, okay, instead of having 20 passengers on this vehicle, we're only going to have 6, but we need to know who was on there, what time they were on there, and be able to go back to that. So if John Smith comes down with COVID, we can say John Smith was on the red bus 1 at 2 p.m. and he got off at 2:15 p.m. He was on there with these 5 other people. Finding that, we have additional hardware pieces that can track by scanning your badge ID, the RFID scanner. So in that situation, those are things that the universities are going to absolutely need. They want. It is something that the university is going to find the money to do so because it depends on the health of their students. And so in that environment, in a very tense, no one knows what's really going to go on right now environment, we are still making sales, but they're ethical and they are making the client successful. As long as the students are healthy and they can make sure that we can trace them in this pandemic, that is a need that is being met, but also helps out Transloc because we're meeting a need of also needing to make money. So even in that, instead of having a salesman come in and say, hey guy, let me tell you what's going on here, I have said, this is something that you need. This is what we can do to offer that to you. Let's go ahead and work on that. And just working over and over and over again.
Such an important point. So much of the professional services industry is founded on this idea of a seller doer model where there's project managers, there's engineers, there's lawyers, there's accountants who they just want to do the work that they went to school to do and that they are passionate about, but they have to find ways to sell, and a lot of them hate it. They feel like it's an icky part, it's a necessary evil. And what you've done and what I heard you talk about today is by focusing on how do I help my client succeed? You never have to sell something you want to sell. You're just listening for, here's the client who has a need, how can I help them?
Exactly.
Wow.
It just kind of falls into place. Like I've not gone for one additional sale at all. It's just been, this is a need. How can we help them? If it ends up being something that's a sale, again, if we could do it a different way that didn't involve them needing this extra piece of hardware to scan for badge IDs, that's fine, because my goal is not to sell a thing. It just so happens that they need to buy this thing from us in order to be successful. So in that, they never feel it's icky. I bring in a salesman, but it's only to close out what I've already talked to them about. Like they don't really have to do much there. And the client doesn't feel like, man, Danny just sold me something. So it just works out better. No one feels icky.
That's great. So don't give me dollars and cents. I don't want any protected information here. But what is this a client success transformation done from a retention perspective, revenue growth perspective? What's the business case behind this?
The business case behind this has been, it's been extremely successful. They didn't really, and it was kind of weird because Transloc itself was acquired before we went through the merger. And so they went from being a startup company to now having to answer to bigger bosses. And so there wasn't anything that was kind of put into place by the end of 2019. It was kind of like a rebuilding year. And in 2020, we're going to hit it hard. And then of course, 2019, we started with our merger. So that kind of set things back even further. So there were a lot of kind of numbers around, but they weren't really things that we were expected to hit. That being said, there were things that were set out at the beginning of the year that we blew past because the retention model was set up at the beginning of 2019. So right when I started, right when they had all the customers telling them, yeah, we're unhappy, we're not going to be with you, we were expecting to lose a lot more. They didn't know what the client success manager role was going to do. They just assumed it would be, okay, another account manager thing. We'll get a few more people in, but we're still going to lose a lot of people because there's no way we can walk that back. And essentially what we did was, I do believe the last time I saw the numbers, we ended up keeping, it was actually about 91%. And they thought that we were going to be down to, we were only going to keep maybe 75%. So again, because there were a lot of and then just the revenue from those, the clients that we thought they were going to lose were big monthly revenue clients, because they had been unhappy for a while, and they were all coming up. 2019 was fun because they were all coming up on the end of their contract. Now I just started, and they were like, here you go. And so keep them around if you can, but if you lose them, we understand. And just personally, just my work ethic, I was not a fan of just losing people. I don't care if I just got here, I'm gonna do what I can to make sure that we keep people along. So just in general, they were surprised. And so the numbers, of course, for going into 2020, of course, pre-COVID, were, all right, we're gonna do this, because if we were this successful before, now we've merged, now we're passing on, the CSM role is getting even bigger. We're going to be able to not only retain, we're going to be able to gather more clients, even more so than we have with the merger, because we now can speak to the successes. These people that have turned around will now be references for other people that may be thinking about leaving or looking for another client to go to. So yeah.
A few things that I take away from that story. One, it's never too late to begin a client success transformation. That seems really clear from your story. Yeah. Two, the business case is pretty astounding. You're keeping more of your existing revenue. That revenue is buying more in new services and committing to longer terms with you. And then the increased referenceability and likelihood to recommend means the already happy clients you have are allowing you to grow a broader client base beyond that. So that's like a win-win-win.
Exactly.
So two last quick questions, Danny, before we wrap up here. What advice would you give to someone who's watching or listening right now and their curiosity is piqued? They want to explore, what steps can I take on a client success journey?
I would say that I understand that the hesitation is there, but I would say that as long as you have the people that we transitioned over from, we actually just transitioned account managers into client success managers, because they were doing a role, we just need to expand it a bit. So it may seem daunting, but it's honestly not as daunting as you may believe. If you just stick to the simple tenets of listen to your customer, hear them, act on what they say, and then of course build a relationship outside of what do you need, okay, fine, to make it more personal, to make them, to help them understand that they can depend on you, kind of have them look at you as a little more than just your client success manager, then it will take you a long way. You will have successes. You'll stumble a little bit at first. That's fine. No one's perfect right out of the gate, but the end result is always going to be better than what you initially thought, as long as you stick to that, because the bottom line is, people want to be listened to, customers want to be heard. And as long as you're hearing them and they see that what they're saying to you is actually being represented in the actions that you show back to them, you're going to be successful. That is, if there was one of the commandments of client success management that I could write on a stone tablet, it would be that, because with that, you can expand it to whatever else, because then there's the trust. As long as you have the trust, you have your client. And as long as you have your client, you can be successful by making them successful.
Great. And I love what you said earlier about going through the transformation, talking with your existing staff. What do you actually know about the client? And what does success look like for the client? That seems like another really good, simple activity just to do an assessment of where you are. If you think you've got a strong client success organization, but you can't answer those questions today, then you've got a little bit more work to do.
Exactly. And another thing to maybe the opening the doorway to that with your client would be, one of the questions I would ask them is, okay, If your department gave you just a bag of money, pie in the sky, if you could have your perfect transit organization, what would that be? And then just let them go. Let them paint you a beautiful picture, and then just write down from there. Because going forward, again, different things that you can pick out that they won't even remember that they told you. So knowledge is power, and as long as you know the customers, you'll be successful.
Great. So last question, and a little known fact about Danny, you integrate your t-shirts into your client success strategy. So what t-shirt are you featuring today?
The t-shirt that I'm featuring today would be, if I can get in here, it would be Bob Ross painting a picture of the Golden Girls, because because it is two of my favorite things. And as I see, one of your favorite things. But yeah, the Golden Girls are fantastic. They always remind people to thank you for being a friend. And Bob Ross always paints little happy trees, as I see you have back there in your background.
Can't go wrong with Bob Ross. I just
Yeah.
happen to have this in my Zoom background. So so funny that you say that. Danny, thank you very, very much for being here today. I really appreciate all your contributions. This is an important message, and client success management, I believe, is a foundational cornerstone of good client experience delivery inside professional services. Thank you for your voice today.
Not a problem at all. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate
Right.
it.
So those of you who are watching this the week that we go live, let me encourage you again, go check out our online mural activity. We're going to put some client success management resources in there, and a couple of activities you can use to assess where you are as an organization in your client success journey. And it'll also be a great chance to put questions that Danny can answer throughout the week. And please join us on Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern, for a live Q&A with Danny, and you can ask all of your questions to him. We'll also have a breakout time where you'll get to break out with other peers, members of the CXps community, to meet them and discuss what client success looks like in all of your organizations. If you are not a member of CXps, we do hope you will join us. Please visit clientexperience.org and learn more about what this community is and how you can be a part of it. We hope to see you there. Thanks, everybody.